On Tuesday of last week, we visited with Shea Dixon from On 3, the Bengal Tiger. And we were primarily talking about Landon Duckworth. And Landon Duckworth is the quarterback who's currently committed to South Carolina for the 2026 class. But our attention did drift to the 2027 class because Monday, today, Peyton Houston, a top 10 quarterback in the class of 2027, was set to make his college announcement. This is where things stood a week ago with Peyton Houston.
On wait and see, because Peyton Houston announces Monday, and this weekend he'll be at the LSU-Florida game. So LSU getting the final visit, getting the chance to talk to him and his family before he makes that announcement. I'll wait and see. I don't think this one is one where LSU just doesn't have a shot, and he's going to end up at Oklahoma.
Okay. Shea ended up somewhat prophetic here because Peyton Houston was initially thought to be a Southern Cal lean, and then it certainly seemed in recruiting circles like Peyton Houston was going to land at Oklahoma and be a Sooner. And then on Monday, again, as you heard Shea say there, Peyton Houston was in Baton Rouge this past weekend for the LSU-Florida game with a ton of elite-level prospects for 2027. And on Monday, Peyton Houston did, in fact, commit to the LSU Tigers, picking LSU, becoming the first quarterback commit or the first commit for the class of 2027 for LSU, and obviously the first quarterback domino to fall. Now, I understand this is a bit curious for LSU fans because you have three top 10 quarterbacks in the country that you're in on, and you kind of want all of them, but you want the best one. And it's like, do you take the bird in hand when there might be something better? It's a weird sort of in-between spot, right? Let me talk about that a bit more and how this announcement will impact potentially Elijah Haven and Colton Nussmeier. But first, like the deets on Peyton Houston, okay? Peyton Houston is an elite-level prospect by anybody's metric. In the composite ranking, he's the number 94 overall prospect, the number 8 quarterback in the country. So he's a top 10 quarterback in the country for 2027. As a matter of fact, ESPN ranks Peyton Houston as the number 1 quarterback in the country for the 2027 signing class. Peyton Houston, I always say it, we could talk star rating, ranking, all that stuff. I am far more interested in who offered you. Let's run through his offers. We already told you that Oklahoma and Southern Cal were on the list. What about Texas, Clemson, Georgia, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Miami, Pitt, Purdue, Houston, TCU, Arkansas, Colorado, Tennessee, Baylor, SMU, everybody. Everybody in the country wanted this kid. He had a game where he accounted for 800 yards in a game a year ago as a high school sophomore. Like, elite level prospect, top 10 in the country in the composite. Everybody wanted him. He picked LSU. Let me also remind you kind of how LSU got to this point. I understand for a lot of people who follow recruiting all the time, you know this, but for the benefit of the person who maybe isn't nose down in this stuff all the time, I'll kind of remind you what happened. So we all know about Bryce Underwood. He was the number 1 player in the country for 2025. LSU had him committed for a year. A week before signing day, he leaves LSU at the altar. Because quarterbacks generally commit a year early, when Underwood flipped, it was too late to get anybody from 2025, and all the elite prospects for 2026 were already committed. So LSU had to go to work because nobody from 26 was going to commit to LSU a year behind Bryce Underwood, knowing they were going to sit for 2 years behind Underwood. So when Underwood's no longer part of the picture, LSU starts getting in the mix for Bo Bentley. They end up in the final 2. Bo Bentley out of Salina in Texas picks Oklahoma. So LSU still doesn't have a quarterback for 2026. Remember, you didn't sign one in 25, and now you don't have one committed for 2026. Meanwhile, Ricky Collins left, A.J. Swan left. You brought in Michael Van Buren. So you got 3 scholarship quarterbacks right now, and you know Garrett Nussmeier is going to be gone after the season. So at best, nothing else changes. You're going into next year with 2 quarterbacks. So you want to add a high school if you can quarterback if you can flip one. Landon Duckworth, currently committed to South Carolina, is the guy that LSU is now targeting. He was on campus for the Louisiana Tech weekend. And they're probably also going to add a transfer portal quarterback. But as you look to 2027, it's when these numbers are probably going to get back on track. Regardless of what happens with Hurley and with Van Buren, LSU is going to add a portal quarterback in this cycle. The question is, do they add another A.J. Swan, like a depth piece, or are they looking for a starter, like they did with Jaden Daniels, where you went in the portal and got – I'm not saying you're going to sign a Heisman winner. What I'm saying is he was a guy that started for 3 years at Arizona State, and you brought him to LSU. Like, are you going to get someone who's got years of Power 4 starting experience, or are you getting a depth piece? That's going to be the question of what LSU does. But they're going to add a quarterback in the portal in this coming cycle. When you look ahead to 2027, it's an interesting year because you have 3 elite-level quarterback prospects for the class of 2027 that LSU has close ties to all of them. Now, Peyton Houston is out of Evangel, as we see, but Elijah Haven is the number 1 quarterback in the country for 2027. He's right here in Baton Rouge at the Dunham School. So that's where I think it's one of these weird bird in hand type things, where fans are looking at this going, man, that's great that you got a commitment from Peyton Houston, but are you taking a commitment from Peyton Houston at the expense of getting Elijah Haven? Now, Elijah Haven, 6'4", 205, 5-star, the number 1 quarterback in the country for the 2027 class. He's the number 15 overall player in 27 in the composite. But I firmly believe that if you have any one of these 3 guys, Haven, Houston, Nussmeier, and they want to commit to you, you take their commitment. Because if they want to commit and you don't take their commitment and you hem and haw, then you are effectively showing your hand and what you think about them, that they're not a priority for you. The other thing worth mentioning, Colton Nussmeier, in all the on-3 arrivals projections, is 99% projected to LSU. So there is a world in which Colton Nussmeier and Peyton Houston could both end up in the LSU class. Now, you're not going to take 3, and you're not going to have 3 quarterbacks signed together. So if you get those 2, then you're not going to get Elijah Haven. I think the question is, right now, of these 3, which do you value the most? And I know what fans are going to say. They're going to look at the shiny ranking on Elijah Haven and say, that's the guy we want. He's in Baton Rouge. And I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment. I can't say that I know a ton about it. Nussmeier is 6'3.5", 200 pounds. He's a lefty. He's number 84 in the composite. He's the number 6 quarterback in the country, the 10th best player in the state of Texas. So you're talking about right now with with Peyton Houston already committed, a top 10 quarterback, and a very likely commitment from Colton Nussmeier. You're likely to have 2 top 10 quarterbacks in the country for next year, both commit to your 2027 class. Now, that means you wouldn't get Elijah Haven, but okay. Haven right now is thought to be a Florida lean, and that obviously could change based on what happens with Billy Napier. If Billy Napier's fired, does that change? Maybe. Don't know. We'll wait and see how it all plays out. But the bottom line is LSU doesn't have a bad option. Like, that's the great news. You've got you're in on 3 top 10 quarterbacks in the country. You got a commitment now from the number 8 quarterback in the country. The number 6 quarterback is the brother of your current quarterback, who's thought to be a heavy lean to LSU, and the number 1 quarterback in the country is 10 minutes down the road at the Dunham School. For a program that has seen its quarterback war chest, its stockpile, its depth absolutely gutted because of what happened with Bryce Underwood, this is a really good situation to be in because you're going to be able to rebuild your numbers through the high school rankings here with elite level prospects that can help bridge, that you'll get a transfer this year, hopefully, Van Buren or a transfer this year that can bridge the gap to whoever ends up in this 2027 class that can hopefully in 28, 29, potentially 30, lead your program into the future. But don't sit here today as an LSU fan dismayed because you think you're going to get Colton Nussmeier and you got a commitment from Houston, which means you're not going to get Haven. Be thrilled at the fact that you're probably going to land 2 top 10 quarterbacks, 2 top 8 quarterbacks in the country for 2027. Long way to go before December of 26 when these guys are going to sign. I mean, you're a year and you're 15 months away from them signing. A lot's going to happen between now and then. But you needed to solidify the quarterback spot. You needed to solidify the most important position in organized team sports, and you've started the process of doing that here with Peyton Houston's commitment. One more from Shea, who in that conversation we had with him a week ago, also kind of recapped LSU's late push for Peyton Houston.
LSU has pushed and prioritized him as hard as they have any other quarterback over the past few months, which, you could call a shift from how things play out, but that's recruiting. Even more so quarterback in a class where you probably are going to take more than one guy. So I think that over time, different teams surge, but I would say that LSU is right up there with anyone who has recruited him the hardest over the past few months. And look, we'll see how it goes, like I said. But we've known for a while that there was going to be Haven in Baton Rouge, Nussmeier in Texas, and then Houston emerged pretty quickly as one of the best players in the country up at Evangel.
I also think one other thing was Shea mentioning that LSU is going to take two, or wants to take two, and that all of these quarterbacks they're recruiting know that LSU wants to take two quarterbacks in the 2027 cycle. When you have guys that don't shy away from that, I think that's a pretty good sign of competitive nature. Now, we also know that Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the first quarterback since Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee to start their career at LSU and finish their career at LSU. So whoever you sign, if you get Duckworth in 26, whoever you get in 27, just looking at the last 15 years of history, it's the odds are they're not going to finish their career here. But that doesn't mean you ignore that position, because you could end up with a Garrett Nussmeier. 27 is going to be a really important class, y'all. It is unenviable because for a long time we thought the way they're going to build this is, all right, well, you'll have Bryce Underwood in 26, 27. He'd sit behind Nussmeier in 25. He'd be the starter in 26, 27. And then Haven would sit behind Underwood in 27 and then be the quarterback 28, 29. And you felt like you were good all the way up until 2030 with those elite level quarterbacks. But you got thrown a monkey wrench a year ago when Underwood left you at the altar, and they're trying to pick up the pieces here. This is a significant day to get a top 10 quarterback like Peyton Houston committed for the class of 2027. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.